We typically use language to gather specific facts, but there is an entirely different architecture to conversation, one where you intentionally use vagueness to bypass resistance and directly influence behavior. On one end of the spectrum is the Meta Model. This is a rigid framework designed to drill down, challenge generalizations, and extract logical, concrete details from a subject. This diagram shows the exact opposite. On the right is the Milton Model, developed by the pioneering hypnotherapist Milton H. Erickson. Instead of demanding precision, this is a fluid linguistic system built to circumvent logical, critical thinking. The objective is counterintuitive. You use artfully vague language, so the subject's conscious mind tries to make sense of the gaps. That search for meaning occupies the gatekeeper, allowing you to securely access their unconscious resources. These linguistic models originated in behavioral science. Researchers Richard Bandler and John Grinder developed them in the 1970s by modeling Erickson's clinical interventions, documenting exactly how he structured his sentences with patients. Hypnotic communication is a highly engineered structural process. It relies entirely on a specific conversational syntax. We can deconstruct this architecture into 3 core tools: tag questions, double binds, and embedded commands. Mastering how to sequence these tools allows a communicator to issue direct commands to a listener without triggering their logical resistance. The first step in dismantling conversational resistance involves a tool called the tag question. A tag question is a short interrogative fragment added to the end of a statement to invite immediate, almost reflexive agreement. Look at a basic statement like, "This is easy." Stating that outright acts as a red flag. Their conscious mind will reject it. But watch what happens when you add a tiny fragment. "This is easy, isn't it?" That simple addition carries a significant psychological payload. The listener's conscious mind is distracted by the task of answering the minor question at the end. While they are busy agreeing to the tag, the primary statement passes directly to their unconscious. You hear these fragments frequently. "Your health is important, you know," or "You can do this, can't you?" In clinical terms, stringing several of these together builds what is called a yes set. By stacking multiple tag questions, you force the listener into a physiological and psychological rhythm of continuous agreement. The tag question exhausts the critical faculty by keeping the conscious mind occupied with trivial agreements, clearing a path for larger directives. Once the initial guard is down, the next stage of the architecture involves restricting the listener's navigational pathways using double binds. A double bind is a linguistic pattern that presents an illusion of choice while strictly limiting options within a predetermined set. This logic flowchart shows the mechanic. The communicator provides 2 options, but both inherently assume the exact same final outcome. When will you clean your clutter? Before lunch or after? Or in sales, would you like that in blue or green? This specific structure is effective against our critical faculties for a very simple cognitive reason. The subject's conscious mind zeroes in on the active process of weighing the 2 minor options provided. During that brief cognitive distraction, they completely miss the fact that they have already accepted the underlying premise of the transaction, that the room will be cleaned or that the item will be ordered. If you challenge them directly, a subject will often defend their specific choice, believing they acted entirely under their own free will. The double bind preserves the subject's feeling of autonomy while controlling their ultimate conversational destination. With the conscious mind occupied and the navigational pathways restricted, the final payload of the Milton model comes into focus: the embedded command. An embedded command is an indirect directive hidden within a longer, seemingly benign sentence or question. Direct commands typically trigger the conscious mind to categorize words as aggressive, which sparks immediate resistance. By wrapping the command in a soft introductory clause, like, "I wonder if you know," the communicator softens the approach so the directive slips past the gatekeeper. Here is a classic example. "I don't know whether you will go into trance in a few moments." There is a strict execution rule required to make this function. It relies entirely on a technique called analog marking. Without being vocally marked out, an embedded command is inert. Analog marking uses distinct tonal shifts to isolate and highlight the hidden directive. A communicator might significantly lower the pitch of their voice for those exact words. They might also pause slightly before delivering the command, or suddenly drop their volume to a whisper. Precise physical gestures, like a deliberate hand movement, can also be used as analog markers when delivering the hidden directive. This deliberate marking acts as mental italics. It formats the instruction for the unconscious mind to recognize and execute. The embedded command is the ultimate directive in this sequence, delivered only after the earlier linguistic tools have successfully distracted the listener's internal alarm systems. When we zoom out, we can see how these individual tools function together as a single cohesive system. First, tag questions build the yes set and lower the initial conscious guard. Second, double binds restrict navigational pathways, ensuring the subject arrives at a predetermined outcome. Third, embedded commands, activated by analog marking, deliver the payload directly to the unguarded unconscious. This entire architecture relies on one bedrock principle. The human conscious mind is a bottleneck that can only process a small amount of information at a given time. By providing the conscious mind with the active task of navigating tag questions or false choices, the critical faculty remains occupied while the deeper directive enters the unconscious. A foundational axiom in NLP states that the meaning of your communication is simply the response you get from the other person. If you encounter resistance, do not push harder with logic. Instead, change the underlying linguistic structure to bypass the resistance completely.